So, hello, welcome back to another episode of the Self-Development with Tactics podcast. This probably is a pre-recording. So, in the background, we're having the Stoicism subreddit. Nothing else to say. Let's actually head right into it. Marcus Aurelius' AI bot on happiness. Well, I trained OpenAI's language model GPT-3 with Marcus Aurelius' book Meditations. This was part of an experiment I'm doing in fine-tuning the AI with long-form media, in brackets books. So here's its take on happiness. Human is me, bot is the bot. This is actually very interesting. Very, very, very interesting. I also have to do this. It's a bit more comfortable. Does it make sense? Is it good? Yes, it is. So here we go. Human, what is happiness? But happiness is a life in accordance with nature. Human, what does that mean? But that the soul follows its own nature, untroubled and unstrained, that it feels a friendship for those who are natural and goodwill and the desire to do good, that it doesn't seek riches or food or sex, but that it does its duty and chooses to keep the consequences, whether they are pleasant or unpleasant. What do you think? Fair definition of happiness based on Stoic values. I'm looking for ideas, for questions to ask. If you can think of anything, feel free to share, and I'll try to post the results if I can. I don't know why you shouldn't be able to do so, but nevertheless, very interesting, very cool project. I'm quite excited to see what is happening there, and I find it actually pretty useful because these are just some things I don't want to say nobody, but most people wouldn't be able to come up with unless you really are knowledgeable in the whole Stoic space and you really know a lot of shit about it. I think you could, this is possible, but still we might actually be able to get certain information if we feed this bot with actually all of the sources, not only meditations, but also, some other stuff we can find, maybe even some other Stoic books and manuscripts and ideas and thoughts and whatever, might actually be pretty interesting and also very useful, to actually find rather specific answers for certain questions that people in the Stoic space might be having. All relationships will end in either separation or by death. So make sure to make the most of your time together. Don't waste it on grudges or jealousy instead. Make sure to be your best version of yourself and support your probably partner, as you might understand it. This really ties into the whole concept of, or idea of, I'm only having one life, and there is the possibility that whatever I'm doing right now is the only time, well, not the only time, but the last time I'm doing this. So whatever the fuck I'm doing right now, I should rather enjoy it, and I should at least try to enjoy it, because this is the only sensible thing to do when you think about, well, depends on what it is. I mean, when it is something that you absolutely hate, I would still suggest to end it as fast as you can, and as soon as you can, because time is too precious to spend it on some things that you just really dislike, period. I think that's just a fact. There's so many things one could do, and I'm mostly thinking of work. There are so many different things you could be doing, and it would actually be really, really sad to see, and it always is really sad to see people working a job they absolutely hate, because there are some possibilities for everyone, I'd say. Sometimes it's just also like, this, whatever I'm doing right now, and I still hate it, it's the best thing I could do with the skills that I have, maybe, and so on and so forth. Anyway, Stoicism has been quite helpful, I'm surprised. I wouldn't be surprised. I think it is as helpful as, well, actually, every other philosophy. It might be a bit more practical than some others, and it might also be a bit easier to understand. But still, there are a lot of philosophies, and I think also a lot of philosophies that are rather practical and useful in nowadays life, of course, when it is so hard to understand and so hard to translate into modern days. Might not be as, maybe efficient and useful, but still there are many things, many philosophies that are usable and one could use as guidelines. Period. How do you deal with the guilt or shame created by failing at a job? I'm going through hard feelings and beating myself up for failing to get a project approved, and I could use some advice. Let's see. In the end, you have the ability to do your best work. But in the end, you do not really decide whether it is liked by the client, your boss, whomever it might be. We cannot decide on that. We can do our best to kind of fit the criteria, to fit the taste that we know the boss is having, yada, yada, yada. But in the end, we can't really do too much about it. Period. It is what it is. As nice as it would be to, and I actually often feel that way, like I'm doing some stuff, trying my best, and in the end it's, well, it is something that I maybe didn't think about. It's just something that I've forgotten about, and apparently it is something very crucial and very important for the boss, the client, whomever. And I think a lot of failing a job or failing a project and whatnot is too less communication between the client, the boss, and the person that is doing the stuff, and or the team that is doing the stuff. Because when it is clearly mentioned and clearly said, and everyone understands what's very important, and a criteria that is just, I don't know, maybe 90% of the project and just crucial to it, and then the team knows it and can work on that, well, of course the team is also going to do so. Like, it's probably not going to happen, but yeah. Simple question: do you control the approval process? Next question: what can I learn from this situation? If you have